Welcome to another episode of In Your Business. Each week I have the opportunity to meet with an entrepreneur, talk about their business, get to know them as an entrepreneur, and just find out new things that are happening in entrepreneurship. It's always exciting for me to learn from entrepreneurs. It's one of the best ways to learn entrepreneurship is from the person that's actually doing it. So today we're going to learn from an entrepreneur who's located down in the Depot District of Richmond, Indiana. Adam Melton, you're the owner of the Cordial Cork.
Yep.
So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Adam, today we're going to learn a lot about the Cordial Cork, but before we do that, we also learn about you as the entrepreneur.
Okay.
And we're going to learn about all your adventures that you've gone through because, you know, it's always interesting with entrepreneurs. There's always something going on.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it was the past, the present, or the future, it changes so rapidly.
Yep.
So let's start with just kind of getting to know you, though.
Okay.
Local person?
So I actually grew up in Eaton, Ohio. I lived right on the border, so I went to Trail instead of Eaton, and graduated from there in '04, and headed off to college after that.
Okay.
So.
Very good. So tell us, though, as a child growing up, each of us, you know, we have different dreams. We play with our buddies, and we try to figure out what we're going to try to be when we grow up. And what were you thinking when you were just a little guy? What were you wanting to be?
As funny as it may sound, my earliest recollection of what I wanted to do was I wanted to be a radio DJ, and play the old country stuff, you know, the old Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson. I've always wanted to do that all growing up. I did reports on it in school and everything, so that was my earliest recollection. And then eventually, I think it was probably around high school, I decided that I was going to be a big time pro wrestler, and got into that stuff for a long time. And then by the latter years of my high school career, decided that I wanted to be a high school physics teacher, which is all over the board.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yep.
But that's okay.
Yeah. And at some point in my life, I do remember thinking to myself, it would be really neat to one day own my own business. But I always thought about, well, what would that be? You know, what would that look like? Would it be in retail? Would it be in the restaurant? And I had no clue. So then I just had more narrow images of what, the physics teacher, the pro wrestler, things like that, because I had no idea what my business would look like. So.
Well, that's quite interesting, and you're not uncommon. I mean, as many of us, as we grow up, we change our minds.
Yeah,
okay?
right.
But it's always interesting to track it back and see if it relates to your childhood. And the unknown of business has certainly come back to welcome back with you. But so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
So, how about college? Went on to college?
So I went on to college again to be a high school physics teacher, and of course I had already taken some of the courses before I got there, and so by the time I got to college, it was physics and calculus 2, and things like that. And I had a professor. It was actually my calculus 2 professor pulled me aside one day after class, and he asked me why I wanted to be a teacher. And I told him I loved physics so much because you could use physics in everyday things, but they don't teach you that in school. They just teach you what you need to know, or what you need to know for the test. And so my plan was when I became a physics teacher, I wanted to teach the kids how you can use this in everyday life. And and I was pretty passionate about that because it's just a really neat subject. And he just kind of looked at me and said, "You're in it for the right reasons, emotionally, but you're never going to be able to do any of that because the state, they control what that curriculum is, and you just have to teach what's on the curriculum." And so it really kind of put me down a little bit. And he hammered me, and things like that now they don't get to me, and I just put my nose to the grindstone, block everything else out, and do what I want to do. But being a broke college kid, and my parents were scraping everything that they had to let me go to college, I didn't want to waste anybody's money, including mine. So I ended up dropping out of school because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I wasn't going to be one of those people that changes my major 4 or 5 times before I graduate because I couldn't afford it. So,
Well, Adam, we certainly enjoy you as an entrepreneur. But if you want to get into the classroom, we can get you back on that track as
Right,
well.
right. I've thought about it.
Well, and I want to let you know that it's interesting because you take a very practitioner approach, which is what I do in the classroom.
Yeah.
And oftentimes people ask me, well, what kind of curriculum do you use to teach entrepreneurship? What book are you using for entrepreneurship? And I can show you those things, and I use them.
Yeah.
But some of the best tools and resources I have as entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so if I bring somebody like yourself in and introduce them to the students who are interested in entrepreneurship, they can learn from you.
Right.
And that's one of the interesting things about entrepreneurs is the fact that there's so many different directions and different thoughts. Okay, so physics was something that interested you.
Yeah.
You thought you wanted to be a physics teacher, but I think you're using physics often in the business.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, I started this adventure in 2010, making wine, and so it was more of a chemistry thing, but physics is definitely involved in that too. Yeah, it's I've definitely intertwined a lot of that.
Sure, and so I think this is a good transition to go into the business. Okay.
Yeah.
And so viewers might be thinking, okay, well, what kind of business is he in? You know, what
Right.
is a Cordial Cork?
Right,
Okay.
right.
So let's talk about what is Cordial Cork.
Okay, all right. Well, the Cordial Cork was born, I guess once I started making wine, the goal is to open up a winery one day. I don't have a vineyard, so I import all the grapes, and then I make the wine from the grapes and the grape must from there. But what I started to recognize when I traveled to all these places, the things that were missing were, you know, the beer and the food. And a lot of wineries just keep it very simple. They just keep it at their wine, and that's it. But being a lover of wine, I wanted to offer wines from all over the world. So as a winery, you can't sell anybody else's wine other than your own. So, you know, then I decided, okay, so I'm going to have the winery and I'm going to make wine, but then I'm going to have a wine bar that I can sell my wine and sell wine from all over the world. Well, to do that, then I also, you can't be a manufacturer and sell directly to a retail, so you have to sell through a wholesaler. Well, I'm not going to sell my wine to somebody else and have them sell it back to me, so I also created a wholesale business. So I now have a manufacturing business, a wholesale business, and a retail business, and so I make it and sell it to myself, and then I turn around and sell it back to myself so that I can sell it to the public. I know it sounds very convoluted, but
Well, it is, and that throws me off because I didn't know that part.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
and that's why I bring in people like yourself in helps, because if I have a student who wants to learn the business, this is the good stuff to know.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
So you cannot manufacture and sell to retail. You have to
Right.
manufacture, sell to wholesale, then to retail.
yes, you can sell it to a wholesaler or you can sell directly to the customer, as wineries do.
Okay.
So in the United States, we have a 3-tiered system. So you basically have to have that middleman.
Okay.
Now, I think that, and don't quote me, I could be wrong, I think beer brewers, they don't have to have that middleman. They don't have to be they don't have to have the wholesaler.
Okay.
I believe they can be their own wholesaler. And I don't know if the wine industry is changing and getting closer to that. But the last I checked, I had to have all 3 licenses to do so.
And there's no conflict of interest. You can do it.
Well, technically, my name can only be on one permit. So my name is on the manufacturing permit. My wife's name is on the retail permit, but I still own the business. It's just the alcohol and tobacco permit. And then my best friend since childhood that we were going to grow up and be pro wrestlers together, he's on the wholesaler permit. So that's how we get around everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you've told me a lot here. I hope.
Yeah, sorry.
I hope it's all good. That's quite interesting.
Yep.
So I'm going to go back to the Cordial Cork. So when a person comes
Right.
to the Cordial Cork, what should they expect? We're going to come back to the wine.
Yeah, okay,
as well,
okay, all right.
But we're going to go to the Cordial Cork, so I know exactly what you're doing there. Is this a restaurant then?
Okay, so when I decided that we were going to do a wine bar, so many people that I talked to said, well, you need to offer beer too. Okay, we'll offer beer. So we got a beer wine license. And if, Excise of Indiana tells you that if you offer alcohol, you have to have these certain foods. You have to have, you know, whether it's soup, salad, you know, you have to water and pop and things like that to counterbalance the alcohol consumption. So to do that, you know, I was just going to do like meat and cheese trays. I was going to do maybe like cold cut sandwiches, things like that. Well, to touch cheese, you have to get a full-blown restaurant permit from the health department anyway. You're going to be under the same standards as if you were making steaks, you know. So I thought, well, I'll reach out and see if I can find any chefs and see what, you know, if we're gonna make food, we might as well make food, you know. So I found somebody. We talked about it for a couple months, and so over the years, this has just continuously grew and grew, and it became this huge restaurant, wine bar, now a cake shop. There's a cake shop bakery that basically is co-located within the building with us. And so, yeah, now everybody calls it a restaurant, but I still call it a wine bar with great food.
Okay. So the experience we're going to get there will be that we can come to a wine bar.
Yep.
We can also have dinner or lunch.
Right.
Is that true?
Yep. Lunch on Saturdays for
Lunch
now.
on
Yep.
Saturdays,
Yep.
okay. And then desserts.
Yes. Great desserts from Lisa Cakes.
Okay.
Yep.
And those are available just by individuals as well as, you know, large?
Yeah, so she's got her own menu within our menu, so that anything on that menu you can get, you know, red velvet cheesecake and tiramisu, things like that. And then she's also got a bakery display case, and there's seasonal or assorted cupcakes and mini cupcakes and cream puffs and things like that. So you can buy anything from the display case, you can buy anything off the menu, and then she also does custom cakes like for special events, weddings, graduations, things like that. So yeah, it's just an all-around everything in one. I mean, what's better than wine and cake?
So we have you doing the wine, we have Lisa doing the cakes, and who's doing the food?
So my chef is Charles Henderson. He's been all over, where he's been at a couple local restaurants, Texas Roadhouse, Forest Hills, the Elks, the Springs, and he actually still works at a couple of those places. Chefs are a different breed. They love to work and they love to cook food, and it's constant. And so when I tell him, you know, when are you going to take a day off, he'll take a day off and then he'll cook for somebody else. He'll find somebody to cook for. So it's you know, I try not to overwork anybody, but you can't overwork a chef. I think they just, yeah. They're a different
Adam,
breed.
what you're describing with Charles is not a worker.
Right.
You're describing another entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. And he's got some aspirations of his own that I am more than willing to help him with and to get to that point. And it's just great to work together. I try to. I guess when this all came to fruition in my mind, having cordial in the name, you know, one definition of cordial is a warm and friendly welcoming. The second is a medicinal, you know, wine. So I wanted to not only treat my guests that way, but I wanted to treat employees the same way. So we are truly a very tight-knit family. We all help each other. We're very encouraging to each other. I make it very well known that if you have another opportunity to go cater an event and learn how to put an event together like that and how business is done, please, by all means, go do that, and I'll support that 100% for sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Because I've always been really fond of the Depot District, and the reason being is when I come to the Depot District, it's just full of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason everybody works so well together is because of the entrepreneurship.
Right.
And now you're explaining that in your business as well.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that you're surrounding yourself that way versus employees.
Yeah. Yeah.
And oftentimes I try to get people to even train their employees to act like entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So I think this is very helpful for you.
Yes.
So let's go back to the winery though, because I feel like I've known you the entire time that you've been making the wine. I couldn't tell you how you started, so tell us how you started.
Well, I'll go back even earlier. When the way I grew up, my parents, they never drank. They never enjoyed any kind of alcohol whatsoever. So the fact that I actually started making wine was very taboo in my family. I was almost I wasn't outcasted, but it definitely felt weird. So growing up on my Italian side, the Renzulli side of my family. Some of them drank, and of course they were Catholic. My mom grew up Catholic, but then she ended up marrying a Southern Baptist. So that's why we didn't drink in our family growing up. And when I would go over to my great-grandpa's house, my great-grandpa Renzulli, it wasn't do you want milk or water with dinner? It was do you want red or white? That was just the Italian way of life. And if you go to Italy, you'll see that same thing. They bring you a glass of water and they bring you the house red before you even order anything. It's just part of the way they do it. So once I got of age, I started appreciating wine a lot more, and the complexities of it, and how it's made, how the grapes are grown in the vineyard, and how they're harvested. Because I also love history too. So there's so much history in a vineyard. So I got married in July of 2010, and I started making my first batch of wine in August of 2010. My wife and I enjoyed wine. We thought, I'll just make it kind of a hobby. And as some hobbies go, it turned into a little bit more. I started sharing it with my friends, and they tell me that it's really good. I entered it into homebrew contests, and then I started winning medals and things like that. And so I started thinking, well, maybe this is the business that I've always thought about owning, but I never knew what it was.
So you turned your hobby and interest into a business.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so that's been a interesting path from 2010 to today.
Yeah. Yep.
And I know you've tried some things that maybe didn't work out the way you expected them to.
Yep.
And you adjusted.
Right.
And
Right.
so let's talk about that, because
Okay.
entrepreneurship's not easy.
No, it's not.
And there's a lot of days that you wonder why you do it.
Right.
So how do you
Right.
get yourself back up?
Oh boy. Where do I begin with that one? So it's hard. Entrepreneurship is so hard. I've done a lot of hard things in my life, including getting stuck in the Virginia mountains with no food or water for 5 days. That is nothing compared to entrepreneurship, and what you have to go through. You get turned down constantly, and like I mentioned before, now I can put my nose to the grindstone and just do it. I tone out everything else. I tone out all the white noise around me and all the rejection and all that, and I keep my eye focused on the end goal, and just know if it doesn't work out, then I know I've tried my best. Yeah, how I keep going. At this point, it's probably the the immense amount of debt that I've put myself in to get myself to this point. But we've got a really good plan to get it all paid back. But that's part of business in today's world, and yeah, it keeps me from sleeping a lot of nights. But when I can't sleep, I just get more done. So.
Wow. Well, you certainly tell the story of the entrepreneur. There's no question about that. So let's get back to the Cordial Cork. How many
Okay.
employees do you currently have?
We have 21 employees.
Really?
21, yep.
That's
yep.
a lot more than I would have expected.
Yep.
So hours of operation, are you there 6 days a week? Or?
We're open 5 days a week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're open 4 to 9 p.m. Friday is 3 to 11 p.m. and Saturday is 11 to 11.
Okay.
So it's more of just the dinner crowd. Friday, we open just a little bit early because I'm trying to catch some of the school and administration, letting out and people getting out of work early on Fridays. Eventually, we want to do a lunch on Fridays, and then obviously continue to grow our business hours. But I didn't want to open up lunch and dinner every single day of the week and get in over my head because I knew payroll was going to be a whole new expense for me that I wasn't used to. So, and I can do numbers all day long because I'm a numbers guy, but until I'm actually in the business and it's operating and functioning, I don't know what those numbers are going to be.
Sure,
you know?
sure. So this is the interesting part because whenever we speak of entrepreneurship, Adam, I know you're an entrepreneur when you're making the wine.
Right.
Okay. Now you've taken what you're really good at, which is the wine. That's your hobby, it's your interest, it's what you've turned into your passion, entrepreneurship. But now you're taking on 20 plus employees.
Right.
And so now you're getting into an area that we teach in the School of Business because you have to take on everything. You have those employees, you've got your HR, you've got your accounting issues, you've got your marketing issues, you've got your finance issues, you have everything that we teach in the School of Business. And how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, it is overwhelming, and every time I think I've got it under control, I remember, oh yeah, I still haven't made my marketing budget yet, or you know, I've still got 30 more emails that I need to answer today for, you know, can you ship wine? What times are you open? Even though they're posted, you know, everything, and I do it all. I mean, I am the HR, I am the payroll and the scheduler and the purchaser and all that, but we're slowly, I'm slowly surrounding myself with people that are good in these areas, and they're slowly picking these things up so that I can start letting go of some of this stuff and I can get back to winemaking. So,
how many different wines are you carrying?
At the Cordial Cork, we carry, last I checked, it was just over 90. It was like 90, 91, 92 wines.
Okay.
You can't get them all by the glass, but you can get probably 90% of those by the glass.
Okay.
You know, regular restaurants, regular wine bars, they may have an extensive wine list of 15 or 20 wines. And so I've had a lot of naysayers, you know, tell me that, well, that's just way too many wines. But you don't know unless you try.
Okay.
And there's been a couple of them that we've seen, okay, so these certain ones that are a little bit at a higher price point don't sell as often, so they're not going to keep as long, so those become not available by the glass, only by the bottle. And we're slowly getting into that, but I still want to keep the multitude of different wines from all over the world so that you can come here and you can taste what they make from Argentina. You can taste what they make from Austria and Australia and France and everywhere.
Great.
So,
Great.
yep.
It's kind of interesting because I know what you're very passionate about is the wine.
Yeah.
And then you jump into the whole entrepreneurship of owning a restaurant.
Right.
Okay. With 20 plus employees. And you're having to take on all these things, and it's a challenge.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
But you were not a business student.
Right.
And in business is when we teach this. So you're jumping in and you're just getting your hands wet doing all this stuff.
Yep.
Okay. What are you enjoying the most?
Oh, you know, I'm a very busy person, and I'm not glorifying busy. I have to be doing something to keep my mind going. So I love that the restaurant industry is such a fast-paced, ever-changing business. Like I mean, I know I'm only 4 months into actually being open, but it doesn't get old. I mean, there's always something new to learn. There's always something new to implement. So I love that it's fast-paced and that it's always changing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not an assembly line. You don't, you know, it constantly keeps me moving.
Each of us have different words for this. Okay.
Right.
Because I'm
Okay.
telling you, it's changing every day.
Right.
If it snows outside, you have to realize you need a shovel.
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely. Yep.
Your insurance company is going to be with you, you know, talking about, you know, what's going on in the structure of the building.
Right,
And,
right.
and you're going to have so many different people working you in every different direction, and you just have to stay calm.
Right. Exactly.
And I mean, you
Exactly.
take each day as it comes and keep adjusting for it. So
And some days are better than others.
yeah, and I mean, you know, you got 20 people working for you, and
Right.
20 people expecting a paycheck.
Yes.
They're going to
Yep.
get it.
Yep.
You're the last one to get paid.
Right, right. And I actually, to this day, I have not taken a paycheck from the business yet. I have a goal of trying to get some of these things paid down. Of course, the employees come first. They're my front lines. And so I've done a lot. You know, I've wiped out my mattress money. I've sold my stocks. I've done everything that I can to cover some of these payrolls, because sometimes it's just really difficult. But sometimes you have to look at it and make some really hard decisions, because you know this may be another job to somebody else, but this is it. This is it for me. You know,
Right.
I'm not. I wasn't born with a silver spoon or anything, and so I can't just walk away from this, or this is it.
Yeah, I understand. Adam, you're doing a great job in entrepreneurship. I know that's
you.
different than what you prepared for in the beginning.
Yep.
But you know, that's what makes us great, is when we can adapt to things.
Right.
So
Right.
I admire what you're doing. Keep doing it, and hopefully we'll start getting some people down there to the restaurant,
Yeah,
supporting
for
your
sure.
business and making sure that you're a success.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. If you don't already know, it's the Old Joe's Pizza place down in the depot, and we've completely redone the place. We've brought the old hardwood floors back, exposed the brick, beautiful lighting, beautiful handmade bar and everything. So you got to at least come down and see all that.
Absolutely.
So,
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, thank you.
This concludes another episode of In Your Business. Today we talked with Cordial Cork. Adam Melton is the entrepreneur, and he's trying to make a go of it. He's doing exactly what great entrepreneurs do. He's all in. He's helping others, and he's making sure that we have successful businesses right here in Richmond, Indiana. Thanks again for watching In Your Business.